Hi, I'm John Carvello, president of Stono Capital and Divestopedia. This is our masterclass on selling a mid-market business. In this class, we're talking about the competitive auction process. I'm joined by my peers of world-class investment banking experts, Michael Carter, managing partner at Carter, Morse and Goodrich in Southport, Connecticut, Simon Davies, managing director at Spectrum Corporate Finance in the UK, and Bill Snow, managing director with Jordan, Knopf and Company in Chicago, Illinois. Welcome, gentlemen.
Morning, afternoon.
Simon, let's start here with you. It's often said that most value from investment banking firms is driven from managing the M&A process and running a competitive auction. How does a competitive auction process drive value for your clients?
I think the main thing about it is that you're making sure that you expose the business to the most number of strategic buyers. So we're not saying it's a big number, it's not 20 or 30, but we identify the key strategic buyers for the business. And then we make sure we run a process that will include those. The danger about just doing a bilateral transaction is knowing whether you're getting the best price. And by running a prepared process and putting an confidential information memorandum to them, you're making sure that you're getting the best price from the parties that you're discussing. And that's driven by them knowing, one, it's led by a professional corporate finance investment bank outfit, and two, they can see that a lot of the work has been prepared and done, and they can validate that work through traditionally sometimes vendor due diligence. But they have to put up best price if they want that asset. This is their one time to acquire it. They know they're in competition with others, and they don't want that falling into a competitor's hands. So they really then step up and put their best foot forward.
Bill, do you want to add to that and just talk about kind of the value that's driven through the competitive auction process? So Simon made great points around putting your best foot forward, knowing that there's other parties at the table.
Absolutely, I agree with Simon, and just echoing what he said. The term I use is clear the market. We want to talk to all the viable buyers or investors that we think might be interested in this particular asset. And if those buyers, if those investors, those strategic buyers know that this asset is being represented by an investment banking firm, they know that obviously competition exists, or at least the semblance of competition exists. So if they are interested in that asset, they better come with the best price. What I always tell the potential buyers when they say, what's the number, what should we pay? The guidance I always give is put together an offer you can support and close, mindful that you have competition. And we've had some buy-side clients too, and I've used the exact same advice. It doesn't make any sense to throw out a big number that you can't support and close. Obviously, we want to get the competitive aspect of that, but we all want to make sure that a buyer is reasonable. And also, and I think Simon mentioned this, when a buyer knows that an asset is being represented by an investment banking firm, they should have a good idea, a good sense, comfort level that all the materials that are needed to close the transaction will be available, or we'll be able to track those down. A lot of times, if a buyer is trying to make that acquisition and the seller is not being represented, sometimes getting that information is a rather difficult task to get that in a timely fashion.
Michael, do you want to add to the value that you see in a competitive auction process?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame I only have a few minutes to answer the question. I could take an hour to answer that question, but I mean, it's big. If I go up very, very high, the auction is proven when and I'm sure the other fellows have the same experience. When we go out, we have an auction, we have 10, 15 bidders, and the numbers aren't between plus or minus 2 or 3%. The numbers are between plus or minus 30, 40, and in recent case, 50%. And so when people think of an auction like the stock market, it's an extremely efficient market. With selling privately held companies, it's really all over the place. And what ends up happening is each buyer brings their own acquisition rationale and motivation. And so without an auction, you're just not going to capture those nuances. The other thing I would mention, a totally different direction, is very often when people do it themselves, they're telling Bill something, then they tell something slightly different to Simon and something different than John. And not everyone has the exact same facts. And what an auction does is it, I'll say levels the playing field, and everyone is getting the same facts and at the same time. And there's a little bit of excitement that we're bringing that, hey, your direct competitor is looking for this company, and that's going to be a game changer for them. Do you want them to have it? So you're seeding both offense and defensive instincts on buyers.
That's a great point, Michael. The comparability of terms when you have multiple offers is an important part of the process.